Here's another one in the art of persuasion, oratory. And if you're not, involved in sort of speaking in public or to groups of people, you may not be so involved in oratory, but even in personal conversation, really public presentation is only an extension of personal conversation. That's how you practice your public presentation, personal conversation. Don't make one separate from the other. Be just as good a storyteller in person as you are on the platform, or as you are in public, or as you are to your office, or to your group, or to your salespeople, or your organization, or whatever. Be a good storyteller wherever you go. Learn how to get your point across one-on-one, just as important as one on a group. Okay? That way you get lots of practice, because we're always talking and visiting and chatting with people. But make it a practice session. Now, oratory is just saying something extremely well for just a little burst of time. I have a little bit of it in the evening seminar when I come to the disease of attitude called complaining. It's in there. When I say spend 5 minutes complaining and you've wasted 5, and you may have begun what's known as economic cancer of the bone. Surely they will soon haul you off into a financial desert and there let you choke on the dust of your own regret. Now, that's just a little what we call a burst of oratory, right? It's just something well said, well put together, and you just use it. One is for attention, of course. One is to get the point across. One is to cover what you're trying to cover. Okay? But use it. Now, you can't do that for 30 minutes, right? The attention span isn't that long, but oratory is good. Here's another part of the art of persuasion, straight talk. We've all used the expression. It's a good expression. Let's tell it like it is. Almost everybody's willing to say, level with me. Just let's tell it like it is. Straight talk. And we can all use straight talk. Here's the next one, challenge. Everybody responds to a challenge. So I'm not sure you can do it. I don't know. See, all you got to do is say that to me, right? See, I bet you can't make another $1 million in the next 6 months. How much we got riding on this, right? I mean, that's all I want to know, right? What is the bet? Hey, we all respond to a challenge. We all respond to doing something well, seeing if we can do it. I mean, since we were kids, right? Competition, challenge. I always go for that. Okay? Climbing the mountain. Going through the experience, becoming a better person, learning to talk better and walk better and look better, and lifestyle, affecting other people, developing personality. There's challenges everywhere. And if you're good at giving somebody a challenge, whether it's a small one or a large one, whether it's a small step or a long step, just challenge people to change, challenge them to grow, challenge them to buy, to decide, to try, to move. If you're good at challenge, you'll be good in the art of persuasion. The next one is learn how to paint pictures. Words fitly framed together that describes something, that gives color to what you're trying to say, gives depth. It has several dimensions. Learn how to paint pictures with words. Okay. Part of the art of persuasion is taking people on a word journey. A journey of words, descriptions. Now, part of those pictures develop as you get older, as you get more experience in life. Part of that's just a growth process. It really is. One of Judy's boys, Bruce, when Bruce was about 12, we're up at the ranch riding the motorcycles up on the Jeep trail. And Bruce was pretty good at age 11, 12. Even on the big motorcycles, he was good. In fact, he was better than me, climbing some of those hills. But I'm in the lead one day, right? And we're running the Jeep trails. I noticed this little clearing right through the trees where the trail made a little circle out, along the side of the mountain. And the view was absolutely breathtaking. So I pulled up and stopped. I'm taking off my helmet. I'm looking at this view. It is spectacular. The colors, it's along about 5 o'clock in the evening, and the colors are gathering. And the valley below, this little river running through the valley, the cattle are down there grazing, the mountains in the distance, the colors, the trees, the mountains, it was just fantastic. And I'm drinking in this scene. And Bruce comes flying up on his motorcycle, right, up behind me, stops, gets off, takes off his helmet, he's pulling off his gloves, walking up where I am. And I say, Bruce, look at this view. Isn't this fabulous? And he takes a look, and he looks at his watch and says, we better get going, we're going to be late. And I thought, why doesn't this view affect him like it affects me? I'm stunned by the colors and what's happening. And then it dawned on me, he's only 12. See, when you're 12, you've only got 4 or 5 colors on your palette to paint pictures. You just don't have very many. But sure enough, as you get older, as you gather experience, you just get this better variety of colors on your palette, all kinds of shades of green and blue. The colors start to grow and change. Then if you get good at using all these colors to paint pictures in other people's minds, see, that's when things can really start to take shape. Learning how to paint pictures, how to get the ideas across, how to tell the stories, how to get to the heart of the matter. All of that is a matter of art, learning how, painting pictures. And last, in the art of persuasion, the greatest element in the art of persuasion is a passionate belief in something. We're all affected by people who passionately believe. Maybe it's an experience, or maybe it's a philosophical viewpoint, or political, or social, or something. These incredible people that have this unbelievable ability to feel strong, immensely strong about an idea, see, that'll affect everything else you do, a passionate belief in something. And probably the greatest illustration of this passionate belief and how it works in the art of persuasion is a story about Paul, the great leader of the early Christians, formerly known as Saul from Tarsus. After his conversion, he became a unique champion of the early Christian church. In fact, he had a nickname. They called Paul the Great Persuader. That's what they called him. I'm sure the story went around saying, if you don't want to be a Christian, here's a guy you don't want to get around. I mean, he's got this incredible story. If you get close to him, he'll put his story on you. And unless you're terribly strong, he'll get you. He's got this story. Not only does he have the story, but he's got this incredible ability to tell it. And sure enough, he must have been the great persuader. His reputation preceded him. The story says, unfortunately, one day he found himself in King Agrippa's dungeon. And they brought King Agrippa the news. They said, "O king, you may not know it, but you got a fairly famous man in your dungeon." Agrippa said, "Pray tell, who have I got?" They said, "It's Paul. Paul, this leader of this Christian thing." Agrippa said, "How incredible." He said, "I'm curious. I'd like to hear his story." So the story said, he sent for him, and they got him out of the dungeon and stood him in front of the king with the shackles on his feet and the chains on his hands, fresh out of the dungeon, stood him in front of Agrippa. Agrippa says, "Paul, I've heard about you and this Christian movement." He said, "Unfortunately, you find yourself in my dungeon." But he said, "I'm curious about this whole thing. What's going on here, this whole Christian movement?" He said, I'm curious. He said, "Why don't you tell me your story?" He shouldn't have asked, right? One of the greatest classic stories of ancient Scripture. One more time, with unbelievable eloquence, this unique man, formerly the persecutor, now the great leader, tells his story one more time. And he tells it so well, the story of his conversion, how he used to persecute the Christians, and now he's the leader, told about his conversion on this road to Damascus. And he tells his story so well. He winds it up by saying, "O King, I wish you were just like me. Except for these chains, I don't wish that on you, fresh out of someone's dungeon. But the feelings, the conversion, being on this side versus that side, you can't believe what it's like." And once again, he told the story with such eloquence and such passion and such belief and with such detail that sure enough, it got the job done. The story says King Agrippa, after Paul finished his story, sent him back to the dungeon, but before he sent him back, he said, "Well, sir, I must admit, you have almost persuaded me to be a Christian." What a classic story. Somebody says, "How good can you get at this stuff?" You can almost get the king. I mean, that's how good you can get. And everybody else in between you and the king doesn't have a chance. Once you get good at the art of persuasion, telling your story, learning identification and logic and reason, learning to paint pictures and solutions, learning to give quotes and write your own, and make this whole mixture of communication something that is a daily important part of your life. And sure enough, if you'll get good at it, as you can, very few people will be able to escape your influence, whether they're children or business people, family, friends, or people from distant lands. Communication, the art of persuasion. I wish it for you as much as I wish anything else for you.